What's up, everybody that's joining? What exactly are chicken eggs? Is the first question. Chicken eggs they're meant to grow a chicken. They have a little bit of everything that's meant to grow a chicken. It's essentially the embryo of the chicken. In a chicken egg, you can see a little white spot on top of the yolk. It's like the size of an O in a typewritten sentence. That's the embryo. That embryo will grow by consuming the rest of the nutrients in the egg. So this is one of the reasons why we promote eggs as a good healing food, because it does have all the growth factors necessary to grow an animal with a spine, which is a chicken. And every animal with a spine does need the same nutrients. They need different ratios. They have different ways of getting it. For instance, a cow, has a whole stomach devoted to producing bacteria and such to digest hard to digest things and create nutrients for the cow. So it needs the same things, but it gets them in a different way. So is a chicken egg an aborted chicken basically, or a chicken period? Well, an egg doesn't have to be fertilized. Most eggs that we'll be eating are not fertilized eggs. If we were to get chickens up here in the north, have our own chickens, we wouldn't even have a rooster, right? A rooster just eats. It's just an eater. Unless you're looking to create baby chickens, you don't need fertilized eggs. And so is it an aborted chicken basically? No, not really. A chicken will continue to lay eggs. If you take the egg away from the chicken, it'll lay another egg tomorrow. It'll keep doing that. It's a natural process. And one chicken should produce 1.5 eggs per chicken per day. If the chicken isn't keeping up with that capacity, it's a nutritional problem. It gives us other clues, into human procreation and such. Hey guys, everybody who's joining, go ahead and put some questions in here if you like. Can you explain structured water? Structured water is interesting just from a theoretical perspective. I first started to get interested in this because you hear a lot about this, by the way. The Kangen water people, they're crazy. They'll bombard you with information, and they have a lot of information. There's a lot to be said on structured water, just in all the technical aspects of it. But I was first really curious about it because of Dr. Emoto's work with the emotions of water, right? And some people say that it's been a hoax or whatever. They haven't been able to replicate it, but I really do believe that you can impact the structure of water and the structure of nature itself, because water extrapolates out to everything, right? Not just in the fruits and vegetables and in our structures, but the atmosphere, everything. Water is sort of the carrier, the medium that life takes place in, right? So I wouldn't underestimate the value of structured water itself. There's lots of problems with how we produce water as a society, right? It's a silly thing that we do have this municipal water production thing. It's a big problem. One of the ways that we would design a sort of a healthy society would definitely be scrapping the municipal water system, in my opinion, the sewer system, in my opinion. You definitely want to separate out waste, from the drinking water itself, especially if you can separate the sources rather than recycling that water. But either way, filtering it closer to the source removes a lot of the problems that municipal filtering has, right? And then redistributing it. And then of course, it's not just fluoride. They put chlorine in it to keep down the pathogens in it, because there's a lot of stagnant water and there's just a lot of inconsistencies in the filtering processes. So they put chlorine in it to be safe, and actually they put more chlorine in it when more water goes into the system. So you can pay attention to it next time it rains big or the snow's melting or something like that. Go in and smell your tap water, smell the toilet water, smell the shower water, and you can smell the chlorine on it more. They put more in it to compensate for the influx in the system. So there's big problems with that. And you're talking about structured water. If you believe at all that frequencies can affect the structure of water, at least in the sense of Dr. Emoto's work, right, showing the difference in changes in crystallizing, the moment that a liquid water molecule transitions to a solid, it crystallizes, and Dr. Emoto filmed that, took pictures of water that was exposed to negative and positive emotions, and showed that the ones that were exposed to the negative frequencies, in speech or thought or even words written on tape and put onto the jar, that those didn't form beautiful structures like a snowflake, whereas the ones that were given, love or positive affection or emotion or frequencies or energy or however you want to think about it, they did crystallize properly. In the body, we don't have as good of an idea because it's less well studied. You need electron microscopes and stuff inside living tissues. It can be quite a complicated process, but we do theorize that water is meant to accept water at its proper structure, as it would appear in nature. And first of all, this isn't pure water because there's no such thing as pure water in nature. Water is a very hungry molecule. It's a very active molecule. Both oxygen and hydrogen, they're always bonding with things. So they form these bonds and they grab onto other compounds. This is at least how we visualize chemistry, right? It can be very complicated to think about, but so it's going to be mixed with other things in nature either way. If it's moving, you know, it's going to have a different structure to it. The structure that we use in our structured water program, you use a product of structured water. One dose is a teaspoon, a capful, every 30 minutes for 30 days. That protocol is double what it used to be to compensate for the increased radiation in the environment, the increased cell phone usage and cell phone towers and 5G and all this. We need to increase the dose of structured water to get a result. This is mostly how we know this stuff, by the way. It's by result. And the reason that we use our structured water is because that frequency is the same that's measured in the deepest ocean water, you know, that we can find. And that seems to just be slightly different than the structured water sources that you could find in a waterfall, for instance, even though that's going to be so far and above what you could imagine from tap water and even from filtered water, right? Your water can be clean and it can be completely dead of energy. And I do believe that not all distillers are equal, right? And what happens after the water is filtered also matters. It matters if it's sitting in a container, it matters what type of reservoir it's sitting in, right? A lot of people promote cylindrical, like they don't have stopping points, dead points in the container. The water is allowed to sort of never settle out when it's in a sort of cylindrical container. I don't know how long that effect lasts for. I don't know if you can just leave it on the counter. And this sounds way too complicated, but when you're talking about structured water, it is complicated. It is a lot of theory. It is a lot of extrapolating, you know, and we do have a strange amount of results just on this water problem itself. And I explain this sort of like the same as with radiation, right? Because I know that if you're under too much radiation stress, the nutrients aren't going to work for you, right? If everybody's exposed to radiation, everybody's affected by radiation. Some people are affected much more, and some people's lifestyle put them into much more exposure. So if your blood is being impacted by radiation and your blood vessels are crinkling up and they're clumping together and they're folding up, they're not going to be able to transport nutrients around properly. They're not going to be able to transport oxygen around properly. They're not going to be able to transport waste around properly, and this can cause massive problems in the body. So a person can buy all the 90 essential nutrients and they can eat all the right foods and avoid the bad foods, and they can still have major problems in every system in their body or any system in their body, because the effects of radiation, you know, they can appear like any other problem in the body, basically any chronic inflammation problem. They can appear as digestive problems, headaches, all kinds of things that we would know the nutritional explanation for, but that nutritional explanation is void if the nutrition can't get to the cells. And it's the same with structured water, right? Your blood cells carry around the nutrients. Your blood cells are made of water, right? The water is the underlying foundational substrate for everything in your body to take place. All of these reactions that we talk about, they need minerals and cofactors. It's because it's a given that it's already taking place. We take it for granted that it's already taking place in a water environment. So that is the catalyst for all this stuff to happen. And water is involved in the absorption of all these nutrients as well, and involved in the digestion. So when water is the most important nutrient, like you hear me saying salt is the most important nutrient, it is obviously, but you know, oxygen and water, these things you can't live without. And they make everything else happen. And if you're drinking unstructured water and your cells are unable to accept that water properly or utilize it properly, you're going to be underfunctioning at every system in the body. A few months ago, we started recommending structured water as a starting protocol. The idea was to get more people to start with structured water before starting with supplements. And we do get good results with supplements. But I've been talking about this a little bit over the last year, and it's something that people don't want to talk about, is that in every nutrition company that we're familiar with, every herbal company that I'm familiar with, every other, you know, noni juice, any of these other antioxidant products, super juice products, I know that they're not getting as good results now as they were 5 years ago. They got better results 5 years ago. People who have been in the business 10 years, 20 years, I know they got better results back in the day. This is because of the radiation stress. The radiation stress is also going to be affecting the structure of your body, of your cells, everything, right? So structured water is one component to fight that. Because if your cells are working properly, each one of your cells resonates at a frequency that adds up, and this sounds hokey to the nutrition community, some of it, because we're used to just thinking, you know, very mechanically about foods and about nutrients, but this is much more than a mechanical explanation. You know, this is a supernatural sort of explanation. It's obviously natural, but we don't understand it, right? There's some of these processes can seem so miraculous as to seem paranormal. But we know generally that we get less results now with nutrition in general. And we know that we need to increase that by radiation. It's not by more nutrition products, right? If you're not absorbing the nutrition products, or your cells aren't getting the nutrients because, again, the blood vessels are crinkled up, the radiation's affecting the body, or the structured water, or the structure of your water, the structure of the water in each one of your cells is really impeding this process. So having the correct structured water can just allow the floodgates to open and the body to start working properly. And this might be described as cellular function, although it's quite hard to measure. But when you increase your cellular function without nutrition, you're going to be able to utilize the nutrition much better, if that makes sense. And I'm yet to see it. I don't think actually anybody has ordered just the structured water without any supplements, but I would like to see more people try that. This is more of a control thing. You know, I know a lot of people who have done the structured water program, but they're also doing these other things. And again, my theory is that they should get a better value of the supplements when they do get it. And a lot of people do want to start right now, and it's great for them to start right now, but if they don't get their maximum results right now, we might lose our chances at having them as a long-term customer, right? They came to us in trust, they came to us in faith, and they want a solution. And if we fail to provide that solution, it is kind of on us. So this is why we do need to attack the radiation more, and this is why we need to do structured water more and talk more about structured water. And one day I probably will be here talking about a $5,000 Cagnum water machine or some equivalent, right? Something that's going to structure the water in your everyday life rather than using a structured water supplement program. But even that it's pretty affordable, truthfully, because you're not taking very much. And then once you do the initial recommended dose for the 30 days and get your cellular energy up, which should be able to be measured in your energy and how you feel and how you're digesting things, and you know, you should be able to feel this in many different ways. Then you don't even need, you know, a regular dose. You can take it as needed, and just like other nutrients, salt and vitamins and minerals, your body will tell you that it wants it. You will be able to pick that up as a craving and deliver your body a dose of structured water, and it will treat it like a nutrient itself, right? So it's just interesting to think about that not all water is equal, and that can be very important. Just like not all supplements are equal, right? Not all nutrient sources are equal, not all herbal tinctures are equal, certainly, right? There's different lengths of time that they process it, there's different strengths of alcohol that they use to distill it, there's different temperatures, right? People can screw that up. There's all types of things that can happen in the manufacturing processes that end up with a different product. And if you think about all the things that happen to your water before you get it, you can imagine how many things can impact the structure of it. If something as simple as Dr. Emoto's work with negative feelings, right? Imagine what happens within transport of water from source to store to you, you know, and so many things in between there can affect that. Someone says, your page has literally changed my life. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate all you guys. This is a two-way street here. Can't really be on this mission without you guys. There is no mission without you guys. Someone says structure is part of life. It is, and it is underappreciated as well. And I wish we could talk more about it. Like, I wish we had more direct, physical, in-your-face, descriptive evidence about it, but we really don't. And I would like to collect more and more testimonials on structure itself. I'm aware of some pretty miraculous healings with just frequency treatment itself. I'm not talking about frequency tuning discs. I'm talking about like singing bowls and tuning forks and this kind of thing. But even what they would say, and like Reiki practitioners and all this kind of stuff, acupuncturists, anything that works on energy, they're gonna say that that result doesn't carry through. You can't do acupuncture once, you know, and continue that benefit. You can't get a tuning fork therapy session and keep that benefit. You know, it's a very short-term thing, whereas a frequency tuning disc, right, that's long-term. It stays on you, and that frequency benefits you as long as it's on, you know. Someone says, you ever take B3 niacin? How do you feel about it? B3 is it's an essential nutrient. All vitamins are essential, by the way. They're called vitamins because they're vital amines, it's a chemical group. Amines, so niacin is one of the essential nutrients. You need it, You'll get a disease if you don't have it. And I believe it's a beriberi in that cluster of symptoms that's caused by niacin deficiency. Niacin or riboflavin, I believe it is niacin though. And you can actually get itchy skin, something like that, a rash from too much niacin, especially if it doesn't have its cofactors present. But generally it's not a concern. It's just we take it at our regular doses in our regular products. We don't take a niacin product specifically. I wouldn't recommend boosting it just because it's not necessary. You wouldn't need to go out of your way to boost niacin. You'll get what you get in the food supply. What do you say to people like Dr. Sebi who say milk is bad and meat leads to mucus buildup and mucus being the cause of all diseases? Well, saying mucus is a cause of disease, saying that mucus is a cause of a disease is kind of like saying that a tumor is a cause of cancer. It's the result of the disease, it's not the disease itself. So mucus is the result of the body reacting to something's going on in the body. It could be a food irritating it, could be any food irritating it, by the way. If you're not digesting food properly, any undigested food that gets into the blood is going to be a problem. Your blood's going to react to it. This is called dirty blood, but you're also going to have an inflammatory mucus reaction as well. The mucus is produced to respond to a threat, and an undigested food particle could be a threat, right? You could have a genuine threat. You could have a parasite in you. By the way, most people are walking around with a parasite in them. Anybody watching this, 99 out of 100 of the people who would watch would go and get a hair analysis and it would tell you that you have parasites in it, or a live blood analysis and it'll tell you that you have parasites in it, or a stool sample or something like that, tell you have parasites. That's going to be contributing to low grade inflammation all throughout the body. That the body's going to be responding to that constantly, right? There's some full-blown disease states that really can't be addressed unless this is addressed. So if you have candida in your body, or you have fungus in your body, or you have the bug that causes rheumatoid arthritis, right? This is going to be causing a mucus production no matter what you eat or if you don't eat. The nutrient deficiencies themselves, your immune system could be weak, so therefore even the minor things that we are exposed to regularly, the minor things all around us in the air, the pollen and cats, right? This stuff irritates people with a weakened immune system. There's no such thing as an allergy to cats or to pollen, unless the only real allergy is anaphylactic, right? Nobody needs an EpiPen for a cat, right? So that means everything that you don't need an EpiPen for, everything that's not anaphylactic, is a sensitivity, and all sensitivities can be reversed. Most of them are reversed within 90 days. Some of them take a little bit longer, but it's just boosting the immune system up. So I'm saying this because your body could be under threat by something that's not really a threat, and your body's producing mucus to that threat because it doesn't have the nutrients to deal with it. So the alkaline diet, the Dr. Sebi thing, it's just not correct. It's very easy to tell if somebody's alkaline or acidic, and this is why, by the way, I don't know how this theory gained traction, because you can tell if somebody's acidic or alkaline immediately, within a couple of hours. If you put a copper bracelet or any piece of copper, a copper wire, tie it around somebody's ankle, leave it there for an hour or two. If they start to turn green or blue or black, then they're slightly acidic. And obviously a minor fluctuation in pH can kill you, but there's a very small change that happens when you're acidic or alkaline, and that will change the way that your skin reacts to the copper. If you're alkaline, you will have no green marks underneath your copper bracelet or your copper wire. So you can eat meat. I eat meat, right? I drink coffee. I'm alkaline right now. I'm wearing copper right now. There's no green or blue on me, right? It's a very simple thing. You can change that, right? You can dehydrate yourself. I can drink too much coffee. I could have a little bit of alcohol that's gonna affect that. I would bet that a couple of bags of chips, maybe 1, 2, would probably turn my skin green if I were to do that. Junk food, pretty much of any kind, right? A sugar overload for sure. Throw you into green mode. But I've seen plenty of people who bought these frequency tuning disc bracelets, got green, came to us and said, but I'm green, what's going on? Walked them through the nutrition protocols, and 90 days later, or more, even if it takes them a while to get into the habit, then once they're finally fully clean of all that stuff and they're taking the 90 essential nutrients, especially the minerals, and then they're gonna be alkaline. Now, by the way, the single biggest factor in alkalinity is whether or not you have enough calcium. Calcium is the most alkaline compound that we have. They say that Himalayan salt might be the most alkaline compound, but it might be true. But you need Himalayan salt, or you need salt of some kind to have a strong stomach acid. You need that to absorb calcium. The calcium is what's going to make you alkaline more than anything. If you are eating an all vegetable diet, especially a raw plant-based diet, long term this is going to be robbing your body of calcium because of the phytates. Anything that cracks or pops or snaps, you know, you bite into a carrot or a turnip, it pops. Same with nuts, right? Unless they're roasted fully or boiled, then they'll pop. This will be contributing to phytates. This will be binding with the calcium in your body, creating phytic acid, robbing your body of calcium and other minerals. So you can actually be highly acidic if you're eating all vegetables. It sounds counterintuitive, and it's because Sebi got some things right, but very generally he didn't. And a lot of the things that he talked about are just strange, in my opinion. You know, I don't want to go on too much of a tangent about it, but a lot of what he's Instagram famous for is reversing AIDS, supposedly, right? Meanwhile, I'm saying, not Dr. Wallach or not anybody else, I'm saying that the only way to get AIDS is to take an HIV test, let them tell you have HIV or AIDS, depending on the amount of markers that they find. Supposedly, maybe it's a false positive, who knows, but they tell you that you have it, and then you take AIDS drugs. It's the only way to die from AIDS, my opinion, right? It's the only way to even have AIDS. My opinion is that if these same people didn't go in and get an HIV test or AIDS test, then they would have died of what they regularly would have died from their generalized nutrition. Heart disease or diabetes or stroke or something like that, cancer, not supposedly AIDS, right? When you die of AIDS, you die of AIDS drugs. Or you're somebody who's diagnosed with AIDS and you die of pneumonia and they say you died of AIDS. Meanwhile, you know, many people who've been alive for a long time just saw basic supplementation, basic diet and lifestyle changes. Magic Johnson's one famous example. It's not really even necessary to use any other examples because he was told that he didn't have very long to live, and he heard that supplementing with selenium, the master antioxidant, the mineral that you need to utilize antioxidants, including the antioxidants that you produce within your body, glutathione. He heard that supplementation with selenium helped prevent HIV mutation into AIDS. I don't even like that language because I think it's more of a hoax and a misunderstanding than an actual, you know, something is mutating or something. But he's still alive and well, you know, he's thriving. Lots of people are. So if somebody like Dr. Sebi, again, it's nothing to bash him, he's probably an excellent human being. If he's famous or Instagram famous from curing AIDS, to me that's not much of an accomplishment, because you could just not get AIDS treatment and you won't die of AIDS. It's my opinion, right? And you're gonna get good results on inflammation and all kinds of things when you encourage people to move from whatever standard they were using onto a more plant-based lifestyle or a fully plant-based lifestyle. Especially the short-term benefits are going to be incredible. And I always have to say this whenever Dr. Sebi is mentioned. I always have to say that I'm familiar enough with the carnivore diet and the carnivore movement that I know that they get phenomenal immediate initial results as well, right? They get immediate transformative changes in people who stop eating the standard diet and eat pure carnivore. Also pure keto, also pure whatever, right? Even the Mediterranean diet, as much as we don't like the Mediterranean diet because of the oil and possibly the gluten in it, because it's mistaken, the Mediterranean diet can mean all kinds of things. But even the Mediterranean diet, people can get great results on immediately because they're into some structure that's taking them away from a lot of the bad stuff that they were eating before, right? So mucus is not the cause of disease, mucus is the result of disease. No, not disease, disease is a weird word too, by the way, right? Disease is just a word, it's a word to call a group of symptoms. A group of symptoms appear, they gotta give it a name. If it's slightly different in a slightly different part of the body, they give it a different name, you know? So it's all just the body not working properly in the simplest language, right? Too much of the bad stuff, not enough of the good stuff. If they're too far along down the line, they might need some extra support, some herbal support, some medicinal support of some kind. They might need something like a physical treatment. I do believe that there can be physical blockages within the body that do need to be liberated in the fascia by massage and you know, physical forceful manipulation, stuff like that, circulatory exercises. And this might not necessarily be necessary in the wild environment, but it's necessary in our environment because we've allowed nutrient deficiencies and toxicity and bad foods to build up in our body to the point where we have a circulation problem, right? So even if you might not need to do circulation exercises out there in the wild, you need to do them now to get better, some people, right? And for a lot of people, we don't know what is going to be their key, right? And we're finding more and more difficulty actually in finding the key in some cases, and I think it's a combination of all of this, the radiation increasing, the exposure to toxicity increasing. I don't think it's as much of an effect of nutrient deficiencies, because to me that's kind of stayed stable. Like obviously the amount of minerals in the soil is going down, but it's not, like it's kind of already really down. So the reason we're seeing an increase in difficulty in finding the key to some people's healing, I think, is other factors. I do think it's the toxicity, I do think it's the chemicals, and I do think it's also the radiation is going to be the next biggest contributor. And not other things, not air pollution, you know, not necessarily the bad foods, because again, the bad foods are pretty consistent, and actually a lot of the people that we see who are having trouble finding their key to healing, they already eat well. That's the reason they eat well. They've been searching for the answers for a long time, you know. So I know that that's not the biggest key, and I'm gonna keep bringing that up as time goes on, because we're gonna have to, we've talked about this behind the scenes too, we're gonna have to incorporate more and more healing strategies as time goes on, as radiation increases, you know, as nutrient deficiencies increase, as the generation that's growing up now comes to us, right? The 18-year-olds now, they might need a lot different approach than the 38-year-old or the 18-year-old did 20 years ago. Remember, it was a lot easier to get results 20 years ago in the health business, supposedly by all accounts that I know of. Can you post the name and ordering details for the structured water you recommend? The structured water, you can DM us. You can go into the link in the bio of this account. It goes to our shop. It's in the nutrition category, and I believe it's also in the EMF product category, because I do consider it an EMF product. I want to go back to that a little bit. With the structured water thing, and when you get your cells, your cellular function increase, and your cells are able to pump out frequency properly, at the proper resonance, that adds up to a layer of protective energy around you that prevents a lot of the radiation from coming in. It's not a surefire 100% thing, right? It's like wearing a bulletproof vest and it's stopping a lot of bullets, but there's still a fire happening around us kind of thing, right? It's not full protection, but having your cellular energy increase is key in part of this, you know. And by the way, water is structured through vegetables as well, and plants as well. And it's part of the interesting thing about nature too, right? We know that plants, through an interaction with the fungus in the soil, suck minerals up, like rocks, clay, inorganic minerals. They suck them up into the plant. As they're sucked into the plant, they're transformed into colloidal ionic minerals. And it so happens to be the form that all vertebrates utilize in their own cellular transactions. So the plants transform the minerals into the form that we need, and they also transform the water into the form that we need. And this is probably part of why celery juice, coconut water, and other vegetable juices can be so tremendously beneficial, because they are structured water, right? And you're gonna have other sources. If it's organic, then it's not gonna have as many chemical exposure and stuff like that. It can be great. It would be difficult, it wouldn't be very cost effective to get all of your liquids from vegetable juice, but if you did, you would be drinking structured water all day. And now, that would be one of the reasons why there is such tremendous benefits in that realm, aside from nutrition, aside from anything else that they do, just juice in itself. And typically, by the way, we meet a lot of people with osteoporosis and diabetes and stuff, and they've been on the juicing kick, they've been on the eating well kick, and they've gotten a certain amount of results, right? So we know that it's great for a lot of things, and a structured water is going to be one of them. These people are feeling better generally, you know, they know that life is better juicing, but they still have osteoporosis or diabetes or something that's a direct mineral deficiency, because that's not filled in by the juice, right? And by the way, you could always DM us about any product specifics. We do really like to help and make sure that people are buying the right things. Obviously, also, we like to help manage that transaction so we can get a commission off it as well. But either way, we're going to be helping you get the best price. If it is best for you to order off Amazon, in some cases, in some countries where it's not easy for us to ship to, might be able to still help you with it. We'll still answer your questions after. Someone said mental illness. It's a bit difficult to address a question that just says mental illness. I would actually ask you to clarify that, because my general thing probably isn't going to be satisfying, especially because a lot of the people who are on here have probably heard it before, that mental illness can have a lot to do with blood sugar. It can have a lot to do with specific mineral deficiencies, especially anxiety, depression, two different things, but they have a lot of nutritional components. but you also have mindset, which is extremely important. A lot of people have diseases of attitude, right? Just as prevalent as physical diseases, if not more prevalent, is diseases of attitude. And diseases of attitude are not nutritional, right? And they're something that does actually need to be addressed consciously. You might not be aware of your own diseases of attitude producing negative thought patterns, producing negative behaviors, and producing this sort of cycle, right? You're not doing the right thing, you're feeling bad about it, it causes you to have even less energy, and you know, it's a spiral of depression. So it could be a huge conversation. I would ask this person to clarify that question. And you can ask something more specific about mental illness. I had a chance to meet Dr. Sebi, great soul. I believe you. He totally looks like a good person, you know. And obviously he cared and he was out there spreading the message. It's just, it wasn't completely correct. And the people that try and utilize that advice, a lot of them come to us, right? And they're like, I try and eat like Dr. Sebi. It's a very common thing actually in our inbox to have people say, I lean more towards the Dr. Sebi, right? The Dr. Sebi protocol. And it's just not enough. And again, it's just not true. You can drink coffee, you can eat meat, and you can be alkaline. You don't need coffee, you also don't need meat, but you can eat those things and still be alkaline, and you can also heal your diseases. And all the diseases that they're talking about that you need to go plant-based to heal, you don't need to go plant-based to heal those things. Ryan, can a salt flush be progressive? It's rough to start. If a salt flush is really salty, salt might not be your key. We want people to do a salt flush because we don't know what your salt level is at. And a lot of people will be like, yeah, I use salt, but they're able to drink a whole glass of salt water. So that means that they were low on salt. They weren't using enough. And I do feel that just even people who use salt, they're not using enough. So we recommend the salt flush to top you up. But even if you only take a few sips, it's a lot of salt. And you taste it and it's way too salty, you're topped up. You're all good. You don't need to worry. It's a really good thing. If you can drink the whole thing, it means you've got a chronic problem. If you can drink 2 of them, you've got a serious problem. And it's gonna take you a minute. And if the more of the salt that you can drink, the sooner you should do the next salt flush. If you can drink the whole thing, wait 24 hours, 48 hours, do it again. And you don't wanna do it all at once, just because we've learned, now we've given it to a whole bunch of people, we've learned that if you have too much at once, even if you're deficient, you can't load it up all at once. You might throw up, might get diarrhea, you might get a really bad headache, right? So now we split it up. We tell people only do 1 glass max, and then do the next one as needed. If you ever have a stomach pain, do it, right? And when you have stomach pain, by the way, the salt flush protocol changes. You wanna keep doing it until the pain goes away. If you pour a glass of salt water, and for the regular salt flush, we recommend 3 heaping tablespoons. If you do that and you can drink the whole thing and you still have stomach pain, double it for the next glass. Put 6 heaping tablespoons in it. Because we don't want you to have that much water. We'll fill you up with water. That's not the cure here. Drink it until stomach pain goes away. It will go away if you drink enough salt, 99% of the time. And don't eat too much food in the future. Start to be conscious of this. And by the way, I mean, just having enough salt and not eating the bad foods, it's not enough. You can still overeat. I can still overeat. I can eat too much of a big steak or something, you know, too much rice even, right? When you're not eating very much food, too much food can happen very quickly, and you might be in a little bit of pain still, even with enough salt. You can feel it. You can feel the soothing feeling of the salt. You can feel yourself burping it up. You can feel it going through the system, but you know you ate too much food and you need to get conscious, control that, because that's the biggest cause, right? And why is it? That causes salt deficiency too, because you need salt to digest foods. The more food you eat, the more salt you need too. And again, if it's rough to start, that might not be your key, and that's good. It's good. We just need you to use enough salt. Don't need to stress too much about it. We put a lot of emphasis on it, but it's not something that you need to be consciously really that engaged with. When you're learning to become salt sensitive, you want to pay closer attention to it, but it becomes very second nature. And everybody that I know in this realm, they've all just increased their salt use naturally. And again, a big part of that is just not being afraid of it. You know, we're telling people not to be afraid of it. They're allowing themselves to use as much as they want to use, and that's a great thing. Someone here, I assume they're talking about Dr. Sebi. They said he was taken to court and proved he cured all 17. That is great, you know. Obviously the rest of the world doesn't accept cure anyway. They don't get that excited by it, so we're just going on individual cases here. Anybody who is suffering with something they've been told is HIV or AIDS, I believe that person is very easy to be declared cured. You know, if you're looking at symptoms, they should be able to take all their markers under control, just like diabetes or cancer or something like that. The only thing that we can't legally say is that if you do this, you will cure your cancer, or this will treat your AIDS. We can't use that language, but I have huge confidence that we can take any individual and support and promote the body's natural ability to maintain, repair itself, heal itself, and they can be declared AIDS free. You know, I don't know what value that is really specifically. I don't think that our vindication in the health world or the conspiracy world, I don't think that we're going to be vindicated by the mainstream, and I don't think that we need it. I think that there's a big enough and growing underground of people who understand that the mainstream fake news apparatus isn't the thing that we're going to take as gospel, and that we need to take control of our health. And like, whenever the FDA or whatever decides to stand up and say, yeah guys, actually it turns out you can support and promote your body's natural ability to heal itself with nutrition, you know, by that point it's going to be too late. We already know all this, right? They're going to be way behind anyways. Well, it's up to us anyways. It's not up to the FDA. I don't know what difference it makes to be vindicated. And I know nobody commented on that. I'm just kind of going on a rant, but it is what it is. Someone, Whiskey, Beer, and Conspiracies said that AIDS talk on our podcast blew my mind. Guys, check that out if you haven't. I really like doing podcasts. You know, it's a whole different format from all this other stuff that we're used to doing all the time. I like the audio format. I like going into depth on some things, and it's part of what actually inspired me to go live here even tonight. You know, there's a much different impact you get when you're able to hear long form audio, and if you watch it, I think it's even better. Someone says that AIDS story sounds like this corona pandemic. It does sound like this corona pandemic, by the way, and that's what we talked about on that podcast as well, that probably a big part of this whole thing, not probably, it very likely seems to be, is false positive tests. False positives are rampant in HIV tests. They're rampant in mammograms and breast cancer diagnosis. They're rampant in type 1 diabetes diagnosis, and I guarantee they're rampant in coronavirus. We don't even know if they're measuring coronavirus. Like, it literally could just be a test promoting that just produces false positives, and it could be a freaking random for all we actually know. I'm not gonna pose as an expert on the Corona-19 test, but COVID-19, Corona-19. I'm not gonna pose as an expert on the test, but I reckon it's BS. I reckon it's getting way more false positives, and to me, it's not worth it to have a test that has false positives. And this whole thing, it's much more than a virus. This is a political thing that's happening. This is an economic thing that's happening. You know, there's many factions involved in it, and very little of it, in my opinion, has anything to do with public safety or health. The only way to tell you have corona is taking the test, then people start dying in the hospitals. Very sketchy. It's a good point, right? And it's been said by us in other contexts. Going into a hospital is one of the worst things that you can do when you're sick, right? Putting yourself at all types of new risk. They're very unlikely to be able to help you. And it's obvious by numbers that, like, if they're true, 80% of the people in New York that are on respirators are dying. That's a far higher mortality rate than the virus itself, i.e. the respirators are killing people, right? And that's bad medical treatment. It's a doctor mistake, and it's essentially a murder, in my opinion, because that ignorance is criminally negligent, in my opinion, right? If they're killing people on respirators, and we have this data and we do have these numbers, and the whole world's talking about this right now, it should stop. People should be put in jail for recommending respirators, truly. If there's going to be a jail for anything, it should be these. This is, you know, this kills more people than anything else. It kills more people than crime, certainly, with doctor mistakes. Do you believe it's possible to catch a virus externally? I've been hesitant to comment on this because obviously it's floating around. This is a very famous video, and it's a logical argument. I don't know how useful it is for us to argue over the pedantics of how you catch a virus. And I'm not going to stand behind the idea that viruses aren't real. It doesn't serve me right now to do that. I also don't believe that they're a major concern. And I've caught viruses before that have been very serious to me and my health. And, you know, if they were not a virus, I do not know what they were, right? And I've caught things from a mosquito, and I caught one from a flea before as well. And both of those things were probably the most serious illnesses that I ever had. Could have been bacterial, could have been something else. I do believe they were viral, right? I do believe they were viral, partially, and this parasitic world, I know that we don't fully understand, right? So, and that's something in the alternative community too. We also don't really understand it. And we also don't really understand how the herbal remedies or the natural medicines that work, we don't really know how they work against viruses and against bacteria. And we know how to explain because we can see it a little bit better. We can see the body reacting to things, so we know a little bit about cells and glutathione and this kind of stuff, but we don't really understand the magic of it at its bottom line. And I guess the end of this is that whatever viruses are, we do know that we need to strengthen our immune system to be able to respond to any threat, any parasitic threat, anything like that, any pathogen. And we also know that you can catch some things while having everything that you need, and that's why we have natural medicines. I've been on my 90 and caught Zika virus, right? I wasn't on the 90 for, you know, as long as I am now. My immune system isn't what it is now, but I was on the 90 and we still all caught Zika virus. We did pretty good with it, you know, but we still caught it. Last December in Arizona, I caught something, knocked me out, fierce. It felt viral because it didn't feel bacterial. I don't think it was foodborne at all. It was nothing like that. It felt like a viral infection and it really knocked me out. And it might have been the healthiest I've ever been at that point, right? So I don't know what's up with viruses, but I know that we got to strengthen our immune system, and we know that our body has this amazing ability to repel threats and to kill things, and we have some magic substances like colloidal silver and a whole world of herbal medicines that attack viruses or strengthen our body enough to attack viruses themselves. Someone says, do you like distilled water? And then the person right down said, distilled water is the best. And then the other person said, thank you. Well, my answer is a little bit different to that. You know, I know distilled water is going to be clean, and that's good. But we were talking earlier about structured water, and distilled water doesn't necessarily mean that it's structured correctly. You know, every product's a little bit different. Distilled water can be dead water, can be energetically dead. It can be nutritionally dead, meaning it's hungry to bond with other nutrients, and it can bond with your nutrients as well. Some people claim that that's a total misstatement. Seems to be the case, especially when we've removed it from certain people's protocols and they've healed, you know. And some people, by the way, you can fast on distilled water, and that could be your key. And then there could be other people who fast and get more inflammation, fast and get more irritation, fast and get more symptoms on their problems, more shakiness, more something, right? So everybody's a little bit different, and they're at a different state of decay. So distilled water may be a key for them, it may not. Shouldn't be used long term, in my opinion. If distilled water is your main source of getting water, I'd be in the habit of remineralizing it and attempting to structure it somehow by adding movement to it, or possibly in the vessel that you hold it in before you drink it. But I like reverse osmosis. You know, people that are more hardcore in the business, some of them say no, but our water guy in our company, you know, that makes the structured water, and the other energy companies, he stands by reverse osmosis. I've worked in a lab setting as well. We use reverse osmosis. We use different levels of reverse osmosis for different purposes, right? We even, in the lab, we do the dishes in reverse osmosis water. It's just not going to be as powerful as a filter as the one that we're going to be using for chemical reagents and stuff like that. But to me, reverse osmosis water is adequate. I may update my opinion on that as time goes on. Truthfully, I think it's probably likely the biggest thing that I will strengthen my opinion on would be water and structured water that will be firmer in the future of not just clean water, but also structured water. And there will be some best filter out there, and one day I'm going to stand behind it. It may be Kangen, I don't know, right? It may be another company. I don't know. They may already exist, they may not exist, but I have my eyes definitely open. And I don't represent a water filter company right now. I actually tried to distribute for the company of the water filter that I use here, and it was actually just too much of a hassle to get hold of them and get started, so I didn't end up recommending them. And it's not useful for me to recommend to a lot of customers, you know, right now, because the service isn't great, and I kind of got mine and installed it myself, sort of thing, and it might not be your best option. But I will stand behind a filter one day. I'm looking forward to it, actually, and I want it to be demonstrated that it is the best on the market, and then I'll be happy to represent it. Someone says, yes, they do. All bottled water is owned by Nestle, just labeled under an umbrella company like Evian. I don't know if that's true that all of them are owned by Nestle, but a lot of them are. All liquids from vegetable juices, big part of the Gerson therapy cancer protocol. I believe it. Vegetable juices are amazing. And by the way, A lot of people say fruit and vegetables. We say vegetables and fruit because they're both extremely important, and most of the benefit that you can find in fruits are going to be in vegetables as well. Like you're going to be able to get all the phytonutrients and all the vitamins and amino acids and omegas that could be produced in a fruit, can be produced in a vegetable. When we produce fruits commercially, we produce them to have more flesh than they do skin, right? So a wild strawberry is a lot smaller than a farm-produced strawberry. Same with a banana or whatever you want, an apple, or you see a wild crab apple, it's half the size or less than a commercial apple. That means there's more sugar tissue than there is nutrient tissue. There's more nutrients when there's more skin to flesh ratio. That's why berries, especially even small berries, have a super high nutrient density, because a lot of those nutrients, most of those nutrients are found in the peel, the skin, right? So if you have a big giant strawberry that's just flesh, sugary flesh, it's definitely changing the nutrient ratio in the food. And we escape this through vegetables, because vegetables have all the benefit and none of the sugar, right? And sugar is not bad, fruits are not bad, right? But this is something you still overload. You still need to process it no matter where it comes from. Your body needs nutrients to process sugar no matter where the sugar comes from. We straight up had to spit the salt water out. That's good. It's talking about the salt flush earlier. It's good. Means you didn't need that much. It means it's not your key. Good. Keep using salt and you'll be good. Someone says, I have a problem with overeating. It's affecting me more because of the quarantine. So Dr. Wallach's favorite way to put this is that when you go into a farm and you see that the horses are chewing the stables, or they're chewing the feed box instead of the feed, or they're chewing on each other's horns, or they're eating dirt, or they're eating clay, or they're eating bones that are laying around, those animals have mineral deficiency. The farmer puts a salt block out, trace minerals, and the behavior stops. There's a few key nutrients that are involved that will prevent you from being satisfied. If you don't have those minerals, you will continue to be hungry. Your body's asking you for nutrients when it's hungry. Us, we're dumb, we give it food. In order of importance, what the body's asking for, in actuality, is water, first and foremost. Your body wants water. If you're hungry, chances are you can knock a lot of that hunger out by drinking water first. Put a little bit of salt in it, it's gonna get even more of a benefit, because water, salt, minerals, those are the things that your body's gonna be craving in order, and then food, and all the other stuff that comes in food, all the amino acids and the vitamins. It needs all this stuff, but it's gonna be craving water, salt, and minerals first. And knocking those things out can knock away a lot of your cravings. Most of us in this, that follow Dr. Wallach's protocols, we stopped eating less by default. We didn't try to intermittent fast. We just started eating less food. It was a consequence of getting more nutrients, was eating less food. And it wasn't conscious, right? We only eat once a day. We've eaten already, we ate hours ago. Oftentimes I kind of think about having a little snack, like some dates or some figs or something later, and I just never even get around to it, right? It's amazing how hunger can actually just kind of escape you. It doesn't mean you never need to eat, it means you need to eat a lot less. Sitting at home, okay, you're bored. It's gonna make you more aware of it, it's gonna make you more fidgety. You could also have psychological components, just like somebody would have a trigger of anxiety and use a cigarette or a drug or a drink. Food's the exact same way psychologically, but fundamentally, if it's a real hunger coming from the inside for food, you're misinformed about what your body's asking you. It's asking you for water, salt, and minerals. So you can fill that in, get on the supplement program. And by the way, people think supplements are expensive, and they can be. We're not selling the cheapest ones on the block, that's for sure. But snacking is the most expensive thing in my opinion. Snacking and buying liquids. I was able to save a ton of money when I was a kid just by not buying pops and sodas and Arizona iced teas and soft drinks, and just none of it, right? I just didn't buy it. Saved myself a tremendous amount of money. Probably saved my teeth, So stop snacking. It's not helping the problem. Spend your money on some supplements. Get them in your body. If you're hungry, every single time you're hungry, try and drink water with a bit of salt in it first. Drink the whole glass first. At the minimum, that will decrease the amount that you are able to eat when you do sit down and eat. And by the way, again, this can be a huge strategy for somebody just trying to lose weight in general. We do want them to have the 90 essential nutrients, but if you're 350 pounds, you need to start shredding weight off now, because what we're selling you is dosed on body weight. I don't want to sell you $350 in product. I want to get you 100, 200 pounds gone quick as possible. Right? And drinking more water and drinking salt can be just one of those keys. People eating too much will start drinking more, right? And do that consciously too. You want a snack? Do it drink, do it liquid, do it tea, you know, do salt. And so yeah, so Beats by Shaban asked, is they on the 90 essential nutrients? And this person, Red Curtains, it doesn't know what the 90 essential nutrients is. So you need to DM us, and you could DM Shaban too, because he knows the deal. And you get on a program, you find one that fits you and get at least minimum doses into you and start taking care of that hunger. And this is not something that always immediately goes away. Sometimes it can take quite a while. For me, I don't think it happened for me right away that I just decreased my hunger. I was used to not eating very much food, but I was still hungry. It took a while. Some people doing the 30-day liver detox, that tends to be part of our standard starting protocol. That can tremendously affect your hunger, both because it forces you to do a fast at the start. And a lot of people never do a fast ever, so something that forces you to do a fast. Just like if you were going to get a colonoscopy or something like that, they would get you to do this protocol first. And ours is very, very similar to purge you out, and fasting would be included in that. You can't eat the day before or the day that you go in. That alone, fasting alone, can decrease hunger as well. It can be more difficult to do when you're sitting at home, for sure, obviously, right? But fasting will decrease your hunger, not every time, but it's very reliable as well. Remember, if your body's screaming at you for nutrients, it's going to remain hungry. You need to give the body those nutrients. Fasting's not necessarily going to get rid of that. Water's not necessarily going to get rid of that, but it should ease it. So should the salt. I'm overeating on anything in the fridge. Well, guys, also to remember, if you're eating carbs, a lot of carbs, if you're eating breads, if you're eating sugars, this creates more hunger too, right? The moment you eat sugar, you produce a hunger for more sugar. It's just like the cigarette gives you the craving for the next cigarette, right? What causes the craving? Eating the last thing did. So a lot of times eating a cookie, that's gonna cause your craving for the next 10 cookies, right? The next one's gonna cause a craving for the next one, gonna cause a craving for the next one. It's a drug. It acts like a drug if you're using snacks like that. And gluten will be extremely bad like that as well, right? This is also gonna be fluctuating your blood sugar, you know. And someone who's snacking all the time like that, especially on sugary snacks, they're essentially like an alcoholic. They're running off the alcohol, they're running off the sugar, and they're on that blood sugar roller coaster that really is actually dependent on continuing to consume sugar. And that can be a crazy craving, and that needs to be cut out like a drug, because it is a drug. It needs to be gone, not weaned off. It needs to be gone, you know. And I don't think there's really full-blown withdrawal symptoms to sugar. I've been a bit dramatic on that in the past, but 2 weeks at least cutting the sugar out, that's gonna get rid of the sugar craving. It's gonna be the same with the cigarettes, right? The cigarette's gonna take you 3 days to get out of your system. The rest of it is psychological for you, understanding that it's not actually giving you something of benefit, right? Food, this is the addiction component of food. It's not actually giving you a benefit. You utilizing food or a cigarette or a drug is an attempted escape from an anxiety. Could be boredom, could be embarrassment, could be feeling like you're overworked, right? Feeling like it's releasing stress. Meanwhile, it's not. We know that, you know, these things don't necessarily relieve stress. Stress is psychological anyways, regardless of what these things are doing in the body. Guy says, I just want to eat all the time. Yes, this guy needs to get started. How do you remineralize water? You can remineralize water in a lot of different ways. It's interesting that the shungite shop asked that. I do believe you can do it with shungite. I think that's a good way to do it. We use a coconut husk filter, and it's not that we use that because it's the best. We use it because that's the way that our filter uses it, and that's a very cost-effective filter, and it's done me great. So it uses a coconut husk. You can use many other ways, and by the way, just salt. Using enough salt, you'll be able to taste if you're sensitive to salt, and you'll be able to get more sensitive. You'll be able to taste that distilled water or just pure reverse osmosis water is very flat tasting. So when you add a little bit of salt to it, it should actually give it more body, or any mineral. You should be able to taste the body in it. This kind of like flavor, but sort of not really. And you should become very sensitive to that. So there's a bunch of different ways to do that. That's the long and the short of it. Someone says, is it even necessary to take antibiotics? Guys, it's gonna kick me off here, and I'm gonna go back on. I'm gonna start the live up again, but this is the last question here. Is it even necessary to take antibiotics? In some cases, yes, because they're a lot more powerful than herbal remedies, and you could be super weak immune system. You could be, you know, you could have taken antibiotics for a long time and it weakened your immune system. You might actually need antibiotics to kill the one thing. So I'm not gonna dismiss antibiotics completely. I do think we need them. That one time I mentioned earlier where I caught something from a flea, antibiotics saved my life in that. right? And I said I think it was viral. Well, I'm not really completely sure how antibiotics always work on other things. Sometimes they do, and their MDs are bashed a lot from us for prescribing antibiotics for viral things, but in some cases there's a tremendous benefit from it. And in my case, the antibiotics definitely saved my life. So if it was a bacterial thing that came from the flea, then that's okay too. That explains it. If it was viral, it still had an effect. What's up, everybody who's joining? Go ahead and put any questions in here if you have any questions. The last question that we had was about antibiotics, if we need antibiotics or not. And I do think that we do need antibiotics for some things, that they're just not a major part of our arsenal, that they're far overused for certain, you know, especially a lot of people that go in and get chronically exposed to antibiotics. Guys, any of you guys joining, go ahead and put some questions in here. But kids who have been chronically exposed to antibiotics seem to have a heck of a lot of problems later in life, and you know, it's a big problem. But from our point of view, if someone's coming in with chronic UTIs, urinary tract infections, or ear infections, or nose infections, or nosebleeds, all these types of things that antibiotics can be given for, that candida, even stuff like that, we would go in and fix the child's digestion or fix the adult's digestion, or whatever it is, right? So having such a misfire early on and treating something with antibiotics can create a huge problem later. So this is why there's such bad press about antibiotics. Antibiotics themselves in some cases can be absolute miracles. And like I said, antibiotics have saved my life for sure. And back then I didn't know about the nutritional route. I didn't know what I would do holistically. But honestly, it was such an emergency situation and it happened so fast. I woke up with it, right? Like went to bed fine, woke up in trouble. That's the case that you need antibiotics. And even in my case, like say I had the herbal stuff on deck, it's gonna take, if not, it's gonna take a few days to get there. Honestly, I would probably, knowing what I know now, in that case, I would still, if I had the nutritional stuff on hand, I would take natural antibiotics, product called Killer Biotic that we have for that. I would take a herbal tincture if I have one, I would take colloidal silver if I have one, and I probably still would go get the antibiotic in that case in an emergency situation. You don't have time to wait for nutrition and all this stuff. You need to kill something really quick, you need to use antibiotics. This could also be with generalized infections. Remember, accidents are still gonna happen, you know, legs are still gonna get split open and stuff, and this is going to require antibiotics as part of a serious, you know, emergency situation. Guys, anybody who's joined here, go ahead and give me some questions here. I'm just picking up from the last question that was asked on the previous live, is just if we need antibiotics at all. And guys, the huge majority of drugs that are out there, we don't need. We don't need antidepressants, you know, we don't need anti-inflammatories, we don't need beta blockers, we don't need ACE inhibitors, we don't need, you know, anti-convulsant drugs, we definitely don't need anti-cancer drugs. But antibiotics are the only useful drug that we actually do have in some cases. Antibiotics are also the only drug that's designed to actually cure anything, right? It can only cure something if it kills the thing that causes it, therefore it is a cure. There is no other drug that can do that. Every other drug is designed to manage symptoms, and every other drug has a list of side effects that come with it, including death. Every pharmaceutical drug has death on the extended label, that little fold out package, even in the baby aspirin, it's going to say death on that label, you know. So we do want to be careful with absolutely every drug, and most of them by far aren't necessary at all to even exist. And then it's just not necessary to use antibiotics in a lot of the cases that they do. Someone asked, has you ever done a 48-hour fast? I believe the longest I did was 9 days, and within that 9 days I might have lost a little bit of track of things, but that was the longest extended fast that I did. And when I first started experimenting with fasting, it was after I had started the nutrition. And by the way, when I say experimenting with fasting, meaning I did it purposely, I've also been poor in life, you know, before finding the 90 essential nutrients, and I've not eaten just because I didn't have food, right? But doing a conscious fast was definitely one of the keys to maximizing my benefits. I got my healing experience. A lot of people don't know my story. I did post it. It's the very first video in the IGTV. If you go down, it's kind of why I'm doing this and a little bit about the diseases that I had in my cure. My cure was nutritional, but it took me until after that to really maximize it. I used fasting. I used a sort of like a detox, little mini detox program that we have using a product called Nightly Essence. which is essentially an enzyme product. It's meant to be taken at night, and for me, it caused a lot of stuff to come out basically, and you can see when it's a detox effect rather than just a house cleaning effect, if that makes sense. So that wasn't that involved of a question, it's just whether I'd done a fast before. Someone is requesting they join the video, and I just don't think I'm gonna let anybody in right now. It's nothing personal or anything. We're just gonna handle some questions and then we'll pop off. Someone said, is jump rope good for circulation? I do believe that jump rope is good for circulation, better than some things like running, right? As you get that up and down whoosh, I think that's good for the circulation. Skipping rope can be a bit tough on the joints and stuff too. It's not going to be the #1 way to do it, but yeah, it's definitely worth doing, especially if you guys are sitting at home and stuff. Jumping rope can be an excellent exercise. It's not very high, like it's not extremely high impact. It also does not need to be super high intensity, and you can do that nice and lightly and smoothly and get a wicked little exercise, both with your circulation, your lymphatic circulation, but also with just your blood moving around, which is just the generalized benefit that you would get from exercise itself. Can we talk about orthorexia? Well, hey guys, you get to see me Google something. Things come up all the time that I've never heard of, right? Sometimes you do need to Google it. And there's a lot of weird diseases named after German scientists, that look like other diseases, but they're so specific to name something. So it's not within my capacity to memorize every disease. So we're gonna look it up together and we're gonna see what we would do. Orthorexia. Orthorexia is an obsession with eating foods that one considers healthy. This is a medical condition in which the sufferer systematically avoids specific foods in the belief that they are harmful. So this is why I never heard of this, because the psychological disorders can be even more specified, and I do not memorize the diagnostic and statistical manual for psychological disorders. So an obsession with eating foods that one considers healthy. I'm not sure that this is a disease, but I definitely do know that it can be problematic for somebody to become too obsessed with their healing. And that, it sounds counterintuitive because we want you to be engaged in the healing process. A lot of that is having faith that your body can heal itself and that what you are doing is benefiting you. That is extremely important. And this is also partially known as the placebo effect. It's part of the placebo effect, that you do want to be believing that what you're doing is right. Even if you're doing nothing, if you believe that you're doing right, you're going to get some sort of a result for it very likely. We know this because the placebo is so powerful. But if you're obsessed with eating or with supplementing or with medicines, it may be doing you more psychological damage, and it might not necessarily be benefiting your physical health as much as you think it is, right? And this is to say also that people can get a tremendous benefit from quite simple things unconsciously. We deal with a lot of people who don't care about the chemistry, don't care. They just say, fine, whatever. I'll avoid this food, or I'll take diatomaceous earth, or I'll take this freaking supplement, and they get a result from it. And they're not overthinking it, right? So you get a lot of people on the other end of it that are so obsessed with it, I think it does them harm. I think it does them harm to their wallet, because they keep searching for new things, especially not given enough time for what you're doing to work, right? Remember, guys, we know from drug research, pharmaceutical research, that if you just do nothing, you just walk away, that placebo effect is going to be tremendously effective, meaning you're likely that the disease that you're studying will go away on its own if you just give it time, right? So overthinking it and thinking, oh, do I need another product? Do I need to do, what about this? What about, and then you keep doing research and you hear about maca root and you hear about moringa and you hear about turmeric and you're like, do I need to take 50 different herbs every day? And the reality is, it might benefit you to take all that stuff every day, but the psychological stress that you're causing yourself by obsessing over it is not the helpful thing. So again, guys, the healing process is mostly in the mind. As much as we talk about nutrition, this is mostly in the mind. And if there is something that's causing you anxiety, even if it's a good thing, that needs to be addressed psychologically, not necessarily nutritionally. Chances are the nutritional solution is quite simple. Chances are for that person to get their nutritional result, they really need to work on their mental. And this person also might not have nutrition. They might need to get the proper nutrition. It could just be that simple, right? They could be obsessing about finding the solution because they haven't found it yet. It could be that. But again, we've seen a lot of people, and I start just asking questions and fishing around when somebody's not getting the result that they're looking for, you know, with nutrition or with something. What could be an alternate cause? It could be a parasite, big one, right? It could be a parasite, could be loaded up heavy metal toxicity, you know, or other toxins in the body that shows up on hair analysis, and that's something that's not necessarily going to be addressed by what you eat or what you don't eat, right? It's that problem, like candida or whatever, one of the parasites. This is going to exist in you kind of no matter what you eat. You need to kill it. It needs to be an active process. And we're talking about fasting earlier. Even a serious long-term fast isn't always enough to kill a parasite in you. You need some active ingredient to get rid of it. So this orthorexia, and actually, no, it's funny that I had to look that up because this person asked me about this earlier, and this comes up in different forms. It's not usually given that name, but it definitely exists. There's definitely people who obsess over their health way too much, and it's not good for them. I worked in the gym for 4 years in the bodybuilding world, and I know that there was a lot of people there who were at the gym in great shape, obsessed with what they ate, obsessed with their health, ostensibly, and I know a lot of those people's relationships suffered, right? I know a lot of them got divorces, probably partially because of it. They work all day and they go to the gym after, and wife's probably saying, you know, or husband too, some women in this category too, what are you doing in the gym all the time? You come home after work, you never see me, da 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 da. This stress of life is not worth the energy put towards being healthy, because the reality of it again is that health actually is not that complicated. We here on the lives and such, and even in the inbox, sometimes we get some really specific cases. Sometimes we really gotta fish around and find the key to healing. But generally, it's actually so simple. The average person takes a little bit of our advice and gets a major benefit, right? The original Dead Doctors Don't Lie recording of Dr. Wallach on audio cassette tape in the early 90s started off with an introduction saying, if you just took 10% of the information that you'll hear on this program, you will benefit your life tremendously. You will add years to your life. And it's true. It's true that the average person listens to us, adds salt, or goes gluten-free, or becomes a little bit more conscientious about some specific thing they heard us talking about, and they get a major benefit from it. So having said that, if someone with this orthorexia, or obsession with being healthier, eating healthier, obsession with avoiding the bad foods, that really just, you need to find your key, right? And you just might not have found it yet. It sounds counter, I'm stopping myself, you can hear myself talk about it, because they're already obsessing about it because they need to find the key because they're not in good health. But you still need to actually find your key, you know, so it's hard to say exactly what to do. You need to lighten up about it just a little bit, I guess, part of that. Then taking more steps to getting the stuff that you need rather than obsessing about the stuff that isn't making that big of an impact, right? And foods, for instance, once you go gluten-free and oil-free, you figure that out, that's pretty easy. You don't really need to obsess about that anymore. It becomes pretty easy to just avoid gluten. You know, it's common. You sit down in a restaurant, you ask, you know, is all this gluten-free? Is this soy sauce gluten-free? You got salt, you got natural salt. It becomes natural, you know, and you don't need to obsess about it. I remember obsessing about it quite a lot in the early days, and I don't think it helped me. And the funny thing is, I already achieved my healing. I already achieved my benefit from nutrition, and I started obsessing with it later, and I started nitpicking with it later, and I started, you know, identifying more and more specific little problems that I could address to maximize. And it definitely could have hindered my overall well-being during that time, although not as much as someone who would be concerned enough to give it a name, to give it a psychological name, you know. So I would just invite you to talk to us more about that. Whatever the key is in your healing, you can find it without so much psychological stress, and we're here to help you. Ongoing, continued, doesn't matter how long it takes. We'll find what you need, get you what you need. A lot of people, by the way, know what they need, and it just takes them a long time to get it, takes them a long time to do it, takes them a long time to buy it, takes them a long time to implement it fully, right? And like we said, some people take some of our advice and get a great benefit, but we don't know. We just don't know what part of it is going to benefit you the most. This is why we give all the information out, right? Bad foods, good stuff, medicinal information if you need it, right? You might need all of them. You might need one of them. We don't want to guess, right? So you should start on the food stuff initially. Probably already have the person who's fishing around, you know. There's going to be something specific that's going to benefit you tremendously. It could be a medicinal thing. It could be a parasitic thing. It could be killing a parasite that, boom, changes your life. I'm only going to do a few more of these guys, and then I'm going to move on here. Is L-lysine a necessary supplement? It's going to be in our basic supplements anyways. It's also going to be in your basic food. If our bodies are composed of 102 minerals, why do we need supplements? You need supplements because you're made of 102 minerals and all these other things. And these are also cofactors in all the reactions that are going on in your body. Some of the essential nutrients, the rare earth minerals, we have no actual earthly idea on how they really work, the full magic of how they really work, you know. But yeah, you're made of these things. You sweat them out, you lose them in sweat, you lose them in urine and feces, you know, you lose them by more activity, you lose them by more digestion. It's not in the food, you need to replenish. It is very simple. You know, you need to, every few years you need to re-tile the roof. You know, you need to re-shingle your roof. You need to paint the outside of your house. I mean, nothing maintains itself. Everything is decaying. You need to support the raw materials that your body needs to maintain and repair itself. This is the basic language that we're promoting here. Should I limit my 3-year-old and Tangy Tangerine? They've been having double amounts because they love it. You'll notice that product specifically, if you get somebody on that product and they just are obsessed with it, they're just super nutrient deficiency. Guarantee you, they won't continue that for that long. If they're doing 4 scoops a day, and by the way, it's not much danger of toxicity or anything if that's the root of the question, right? Am I giving too much to my 3-year-old? I don't think so. If they're lapping it up, if they're loving it, they're getting a benefit from it. Just like the salt, as you have more salt, it will become saltier. It will become less appealing to the point where it becomes offensive. Same thing's gonna happen with the nutrients actually. If you drink that product, its taste will change. If you have your first glass, 2 scoops in your first glass, it might taste really strong. Your second glass is gonna taste different. It's the same stuff. Your body, your tongue will react to it differently based on your nutritional structure right now. Very interesting actually. And when you've been out there working and you're dehydrated or something and you pour that thing of Tangy Tangerine, this is not a product commercial by the way. We started on this, I was started on this product because my friends were addicted to it, right? Obsessed with this freaking orange drink. And so if you're super dehydrated, it can taste like the best thing in the whole world. Going and you can fantasize about going and drinking some Tangy Tangerine, and then boom, it's got that buzz. The second one's probably not going to do that to you, right? Because you're now not that deficient. Your body's not giving that much of a response to it. It's been topped up. So if they're doing that for weeks and weeks and weeks, I would want to look for what they're really craving. They're probably really craving minerals. The Tangy Tangerine is not so much about minerals as it is about the whole overall package. There is minerals in it, but I would boost the minerals themselves, just the raw minerals. There's no upper limit on that. And the liquid plant-derived minerals, you can add that into anything else. You can even add that into the Tangy Tangerine, and that should decrease, by rights, it should decrease the amount that they're drinking. You don't have to worry about overdoing it. If they're wanting it, then their body wants it, and give it to them. Dr. Wallet calls it the seafood diet. Once you begin to become attuned to what your body's asking you for, your body will tell you what it wants. It will say, I'm craving water, I'm craving salt. It won't tell you in English, you know, but you'll be able to listen to your body. And it'll tell you too in product form. If you teach it products, if you teach your body chips, right? If you address a fat and salt craving with chips, your body might tell you chips, right? But if you just give it salt and water, you might interfere with that process. But your body can tell you to drink Tangy Tangerine because you've taught it that that's the source of this group of nutrients that your body's going to crave for. It's produce a craving for that specific nutrient. Seafood diet. If you're craving something, eat that thing, as long as it's not a bad thing. Once you purge the bad things out and you break the addiction to the bad stuff, your body will not ask you for the bad things. It will ask you very specifically for certain things that you need. And I myself, I get this sharp a lot of times. I get it for eggs, I get it for red meat sometimes, and I get it for green vegetables sometimes. Just burning. Body says, give me green vegetables. Very specific. It will never tell you to eat an Oreo cookie once you get them out of your life, or chips or something like that. Someone's saying, please talk all things skin tags. I'm just gonna have to apologize because I'm only gonna mention skin tags briefly, and then I am going to sign out because we've done a little bit of a double live here, and I appreciate all you joining me, but I'm going to sign off. So skin tags, or sorry, they didn't even say skin tags, they just said skin, please. Okay, quickly. Skin needs nutrients to work properly. It needs all the 90 essential nutrients, but particularly it needs the omega-3, it needs zinc, and it needs a few other nutrients in there. Any one of those deficiencies, even vitamin A, vitamin E, can produce acne somewhere on the body. Dirty blood can produce acne, meaning undigested proteins getting into the blood somehow. Maybe not strong enough stomach acid, maybe the liver and bile duct system is under-functioning, so not enough enzymes and bile are meeting the food that's been digested, broken down in the stomach acid, supposed to go into the intestine and meet with bile and enzymes to move on to the next stage in digestion. And by the way, that converts the material from strongly acidic, it was strongly acidic in the stomach, goes in, it needs the bile to convert that to an alkaline environment for these enzyme reactions to happen. So that could be a problem for whatever reason. Undigested proteins getting into the blood, causing dirty blood. It's going to cause a circulation problem as well. This can show up as acne. Gluten intolerance itself can show up as acne, so you can eat gluten and you can get a skin reaction to it, or some other junk that your body's not reacting to, so that it's not meant to eat. It's an irritant, right? That's why we call it gluten intolerance. It's a sensitivity to something it's not supposed to be consuming. That can produce acne itself. But deficiencies themselves outright, the digestive problem can cause deficiencies. So all things skin, you need to take your nutrients, you need to avoid the bad foods. Lastly, you need to know that the ratio of omegas can probably be your biggest contributor, right? You can be on the 90 and you can be eating the way that we're telling you to eat, and you could be, by doing that, you're getting too much omega-6s, not enough omega-3. So what we do, and this is why we've designed some of our product packs to include extra omega-3, because we just find blanketly that when we boost the omega-3s, the EPA and DHA, then we get a skin result. I know me as an O-negative blood type, I think blood type has a lot to do with it, but I don't know the complete ins and outs yet. I do hope to build that picture. But I do think the O-negative blood type needs a tremendous amount of omega-3 and needs a tremendous amount of salt, and does also need the heme iron found in blood somehow, right? But I know that I get acne if I don't have enough vitamin D or I don't have enough omega-3. Doesn't matter what else I supplement with, it doesn't matter what I eat. If I get off of or run out of vitamin D and or omega-3, within about 2 weeks, my body's gonna start producing acne. It takes, at that point in time, if I reintroduce the omegas and the vitamin D, it's still gonna take about 2 weeks to really notice a difference. So I do think it's a process that you can't just boom switch off, right? The body's producing acne, you need to reverse that process, and it's not a snap overnight thing. And as you're changing your diet too, by the way, even if you were eating junk food before, you could quit junk food. There's people that eat junk food and they don't have bad skin. Quit junk food, start eating healthy, start to develop skin problems. This is because of ratio problems. And I don't want to get into a full theory of why, because it can be so complicated, but the point is boosting the omega-3s, boosting the D, boosting the zinc. These three are all very inexpensive nutrients. The omega-3 I would recommend getting from us. The D you don't have to, but I buy ours anyways, and it does me quite well. And the same thing with the zinc. Now zinc is actually, I'm gonna start to get in trouble for this, but I'm gonna start doing what Ben Fuchs has done for years. And Pharmacist Ben, we love him, but when we bring him to talk live, we used to have to take him aside and be like, Ben, people have to leave this talk thinking they need the 90 essential nutrients. They can't leave the talk just stoked about the benefits of vitamin C and B12 and zinc, right? You can get lost in Ben's specifics talking about specific individual nutrients. Meanwhile, we're talking about the 90 essential nutrients, and that incorporates them all. Anyways, if you take our standard 90 essential nutrients, it doesn't have enough zinc in it. Zinc is one of the things that needs to be boosted. Our zinc product, Zinc FX, still isn't enough. It's a great product, it tastes great, it's not very expensive, but it's still not enough. So if you do get some zinc picolinate, or another form of zinc, whatever you want, but zinc picolinate raw from a pharmacist, it can be very cheap, and you can boost that very, very cheaply And in the health business, there's a lot of people who just get skin benefits just from boosting zinc alone, right? Not changing their diet or anything like that. Could be with omega as well, except of course omega is a lot harder to absorb, you know, especially with gluten intolerance and this stuff. Too much carbs, not enough salt, all that kind of stuff. So follow all the recommendations for healthy skin. Boost the good fats if you need to. Boost the omegas if that's not enough. Boost the, should be on D anyways. You should be getting enough vitamin D anyways. That's a really critical nutrient that we don't get enough time to talk about. Could be your absolute key to healing. The vitamin D, if you're not getting it. We're up north still not that much sun. Gotta supplement with it. And again, the zinc and the selenium and some of the other things. It sounds complicated when you just start rattling off nutrients. We want you to take the 90 and you can boost those other ones, those other key nutrients as needed. And I think that's gonna be it. That's all I'm gonna say on skin for now. Probably rambled. By the way, if you wanna know more about skin, I recommend it sometimes, but everybody should watch Ben Fuchs's video series called The 7 Different Types of Acne. Very informative, so much detail that you can learn about the skin, because we make it sound too simple, I think. I think we're guilty of making it sound too simple too often, and you don't need to know everything about skin, but it is nice to know that skin problems in different places in the body, they do mean different things. And if you can recognize it, you can target it. You can see what's hormonal acne, you can see what's digestive acne, right? And there's 7 different types. And if you YouTube it, Ben Fuchs, 7 types of acne, you can see it. So I appreciate all you guys for joining me. I have a ton of love, ton of respect for all of you. Need anything, hit me up on the personal account, hit me up on the DM on this account. There's a bunch of people in there that help. I'm in there as well. If it's for me personally, they'll leave it for me. You can always reach out to me personally. Otherwise, if it's something that's not a direct nutritional protocol, if you have any questions about anything nutritional, hit us up in the DM absolutely anytime. Any specific questions, anything like that. Even if it's questions about products from another company, or even if you don't buy products from it, doesn't matter. Come into the DM, let us help you sort this stuff out, do it properly. And together we'll make the world a better place. I believe that's the whole point of this. So hope all you enjoyed this. Hope you got some value. I'll put a recorded version up on YouTube and you'll see this chopped up and inserted into the Instagram feed in little clip formats with titles and everything. We can talk there. See you next time, guys.